This is 4 minutes for Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Birds of... let's just call it Birds of Prey. Ready? DC superhero movies have been having a bit of a resurgence recently. After the bomb of Justice League, they put out Aquaman, which made a lot of money despite me not seeing it because it still looks very stupid. Then they put out Shazam, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Put out Joker outside of the universe, which I also liked. And now Harley Quinn finally gets her big center stage outing. Harley has a lot of baggage going into this movie, being tied to one of the worst DC movies ever, along with the worst possible interpretation of the Joker ever. Luckily, this movie is ready and willing to throw all that away and move on. As you may know, this is a movie about Harley and Mr. J breaking up and her beginning a new life all her own. Without the threat of Joker's protection, half the city wants her dead, entangling her in a conflict with a lunatic club owner known as Black Mask, who's on the hunt for a diamond. There's a lot of jumping around, but the plot doesn't get much more complex than that. The characters in this movie are all really great and are so much more interesting than most of what DCEU has offered us so far. The clear standout here is Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. She's phenomenal, and she's already become one of those actors who is completely inseparable from the character. She brings all the fun and mayhem that she already had from Suicide Squad, but now with better writing that explores some of her more complex feelings along with her psychiatric background. The other characters are all good with solid acting, even if they are underdeveloped compared to Harley. Ewan McGregor makes Black Mask perfectly hilarious and scummy. He's a great villain and a great focal hatred point. My personal favorite is Huntress. One, because it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and two, because she's so hilarious and just a kick-ass character. Beyond great little human moments where they feel very real, the characters also get to shine in the action, which is not only shot better than a lot of other superhero action, but is aided by these great dynamic set pieces like the abandoned funhouse. A lot of this probably comes from director Kathy Yan, who I have a lot of respect for coming out of this movie. The colors, the costume choices, the consistent visual presentation which shows Suicide Squad how it's done while still borrowing from things like Scott Pilgrim and Deadpool. Even the fourth wall breaks, which don't always work for me in terms of narrative and comedy, all flow together pretty well here. And on top of that, she deepens the impact of the empowering female representation by having the characters be fun and flawed and human, which is where I feel a lot of others fail, like making the character too perfect like Wonder Woman, or not really having them do anything but saying it's empowering like Captain Marvel. The movie isn't without its faults, and despite my praise, there are a lot of aspects that keep me from running to see it again. Even though the visuals do generally hold their own, one of the weakest parts of the movie for me was the music. The score is totally forgettable, and the soundtrack has some good songs, but I feel like they're way overused. They're too upfront, especially the weird moody cover of Hit Me With Your Best Shot. It made me feel like I was watching an edgy, forgettable CW show. I've heard a lot of complaints about the handling of Cass as a character. Look, I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about her. I'm not a comics guy. I don't know anything about the character. But from what I've heard and understand, with her being Batgirl and various aspects of who she is as a person, I could see why coming in expecting a certain character and getting what we got would be kind of jarring. Really, facing expectations is probably Birds of Prey's biggest obstacle, and it negatively affected me as well. As the name change in the marketing would suggest, a lot of people came into this expecting an actual origin story for the Birds of Prey, and not just a solo Harley movie. It's entirely focused on Harley's perspective, with her telling the story and driving the plot. I did kind of expect that going in with how much people know and love the character, but I did still want to see more of the other characters. Really, I just wanted the team up to happen around halfway through the movie instead of at the very end. I talked a lot about this movie, but when all said and done, it's just a good, enjoyable movie. You can tell that everyone had a blast making it, so you might have one watching it. I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. And done.